Rocky, the Lazy Ant. Support our work on Patreon at the link left in the description and donate for the next stories. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Rocky, the Lazy Ant. In the city of Shine, on 55th Street, in the apartment of Grandpa John and Grandma Mary, there lived a little ant named Rocky. Little Rocky moved in with Grandma Mary and Grandpa John 5 years ago when he left the anthill and went to live alone. The reason for leaving was that Rocky was a very lazy ant. Specifically, one summer, while all the ants were gathering food for the winter and working diligently, Rocky spent whole days sleeping, watching TV, or playing games. The ants got angry and told Rocky either to start working or to leave their society. Rocky decided he didn't want to work and announced he was leaving the anthill. After a short search, he decided it was safest to move into Grandpa John and Grandma Mary's apartment. It was very nice in his new apartment. Grandma Mary made beautiful dishes, so Rocky was very happy. He would spend his summers on the balcony, where he would sunbathe in a hammock, nibble on cabbage leaves and drink pumpkin juice. When it got dark, Rocky would go home to the bread box, drink a glass of warm milk, brush his teeth and go to sleep. And so, day after day, month after month, year after year, Rocky lived very pleasantly, nicely, without any effort. The warm and beautiful summers passed and new winters came. Rocky didn't go outside then. Most of the time, he would sit by the fireplace and warm himself while waiting for the next delicious lunch or dessert cooked by the hard-working Grandma Mary. One morning Rocky was awakened by a strange shaking of his home. Quite unexpectedly, the door of the box opened and a gust of cold air rushed in, causing the box to tilt, and Rocky rolled down the box all the way to the door. With his last strength, he grabbed the edge of the box and hung above the cold snow. He looked up and saw that the bread box was in the hands of Mimi, Grandpa John's and Grandma Mary's daughter, who was cleaning the box, and small bread crumbs were falling out of it. Seeing the crumbs fall from the box, starving sparrows gathered under the balcony and immediately swallowed the crumbs on the snow. It was very cold outside. The snow was up to the knees and strong gusts of wind were blowing, so Rocky couldn't hold on and flew away from the balcony, fell on the snow and began to shiver. He turned to the balcony and was astonished how far the wind had blown him. He turned around and realized in horror that all the sparrows had noticed him and were set to swallow him as if he were a breadcrumb. He ran for dear life to a firewood shed, seconds faster than the sparrows, and managed to get under the bark of a log. Terrified and exhausted, his heart was beating fast as he struggled to catch his breath. After resting a bit, he began to think how to get back to his warm home. He would immediately go to the balcony, but the sparrows were waiting for him outside. Rocky knew that the anthill was somewhere nearby, but deep under the snow, and Rocky didn't even want to think about digging the snow to find it. After a while, he began to feel cold, shiver, and his teeth chattered. He was wearing only a blue blouse and shorts and would freeze like ice cream in a few hours. But Rocky was very, very lazy, so instead of trying to find the anthill, he decided to snuggle under the tree bark and wait for a miracle. Hours passed. The cold was unbearable, and night was slowly falling and it was getting even colder. Rocky was sitting in the bark of the tree, shivering with cold and very close to freezing. His hunger played his stomach like a broken violin. This was the hard way Rocky realized that the only salvation for him was to find the anthill. He got up, bit off a piece of bark from a log and made a small shovel, put it under his armpit and ran into the snow. Slowly, he began to dig, and the more he dug, the more eager he became to work. He threw snow with all his might and in all directions and made a tunnel where he could even spend the night. After 2 hours of digging, Rocky found a clue that led to the entrance of the anthill, tiny pieces of grain. Overjoyed, he opened the hatch of the anthill and ran inside. The guard ants immediately intercepted him and surrounded him. In the blink of an eye, the leader of the anthill, his own brother Bobby, arrived. Worried, but with much love and joy, he asked him what he was doing back in the anthill, and Rocky told him about all his adventures, asked for some food and lodging until the end of the winter. He promised that if they would take him back and feed him, he would work with them all summers until the end of his life. The ants took pity and took him in, fed him and welcomed him back into their society. The following summer Rocky began to fulfill his promise and worked very diligently. He carried more food than 3 other ants put together. So valuable was he that all the ants were amazed. But Rocky learned one thing, that no matter how good a life you live and no matter how much leisure you can afford, hard work is what makes ants what they are.